We have an Avengers Doomsday trailer description, footage of Joe Russo addressing why Doctor Doom and Tony Stark look alike, and a reported current runtime for the film itself. Hey everybody, Colton here, and Avengers Doomsday's marketing campaign is about to be in full swing. We just got this new look at a concept art poster revealed by Kevin Feige, and on July 25th at San Diego Comic-Con, we will be getting the official first trailer for the movie. Now, they did show a trailer for Doomsday at CinemaCon, but they never released it to the public, and I think it's unlikely that they will release the same trailer from CinemaCon at Comic-Con on the 25th. I think that CinemaCon trailer was cut specifically for CinemaCon, and that our first trailer for Doomsday that we'll be getting at Comic-Con and that will be released to the public will be a brand new trailer. It might have like a lot of similarities, but it's still going to be also a lot different. But hey, that's just my speculation. I actually haven't got to read this leaked description yet. I just kind of skimmed it. I saw some new things. I saw some things that were from the CinemaCon trailer. So I do want to read it with you guys and give my reaction and talk about what we think. Do we think it's real? So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, the trailer begins with a shot of Doom on a throne in Latveria. Doom walks through his castle and they show a huge painting depicting his wife and son. Thor arrives with the Fantastic Four to meet the new Avengers. There is a shot of them flying their ship into the tower. The team gets acquainted. Steve meets Thor and he summons the hammer to himself and proves that it's him, because Thor doesn't believe it's him. Thor says that's impossible. Steve then meets Yelena and tells her that Natasha was family to him, which means she is his family too. In a fight between Yelena and Yelena, Mystique's transformation is shown, a shot in the Baxter building with the X-Men, a shot of Reed Richards talking to Doom. Reed is practically yelling at him, saying, "Answer me," a shot of Loki in his TVA suit in Steve's house from the first teaser. The main scene of the trailer is the battle between Thor and Doctor Doom, where Thor throws Stormbreaker at Doom, and he easily stops it with a single movement of his hand. The trailer ends with a shot where Doom is controlling the Sentinels. Doom's final line of the trailer, "One day you will forgive me." Okay. Let's break this thing down. So the opening scene featuring Doom on his throne, we have seen this epic new look at Doom's throne, right? At the Shanghai Expo where the new concept art poster was revealed. And we then, in this description, will get a shot of Doom walking through his Latvian castle, and we will see like a huge painting of his wife and son. So I am wondering, because, I mean, it doesn't say it, but I am wondering if we will see RDJ in that picture as well as Victor Von Doom and before his face was scarred, or maybe we could see, like, we see his wife and son in the painting, and we also see, like, the body of a man, and, like, right up to, like, maybe right up to his chin or above his mouth or something, and then we just don't, like, see the actual face, but we know, oh, shit, oh, Robert Downey Jr. Now, we do know, of course, from the leaks, and spoiler warning if you don't want to hear about leaks, but we know from the leaks that supposedly Doctor Doom's family is dead following a lab accident where Doom was attempting to solve the incursion that is happening to their universe. In the process, his family dies from that accident. He is like brutally scarred, and he blames Steve Rogers for the whole thing because Steve is from Universe 616, and Steve's presence in Universe 828, the Fantastic Four universe, that is what is causing the very incursion that Doom was attempting to fix. Now, in case you don't know, I'll fill you in super quick. Why is Steve in the Fantastic Four universe? It has been reported that Steve was moved to Universe 828, the Fantastic Four universe, with Peggy and their son, and this was done by Loki in order to spare them from a TVA pruning prior to the end of Loki Season 2. So where on that, timeline that happens, not sure. So I would assume that since Loki is the one that put Steve in his universe, I would assume that Doom is probably pissed at Loki as well. And, well, there's a leak about what happens to Loki, what Doom does to... Here, I'll just tell you. It's spoiler warning if you don't want to know. Rips dude's heart out and takes his power. So yeah, I bet he's a little pissed at Loki too. Anyway, in this trailer description, next we see Thor arrived with the Fantastic Four. Now, the way this was written, it makes it kind of sound like if you're just reading it top to bottom, it makes it sound like they're saying Thor arrives at the castle. No, I think they're saying Thor arrives at the Avengers Tower with the Fantastic Four. Yeah, at the Okay. So their ship lands, like on the landing pad of the tower. Remember, we saw the Fantastic Four ship coming into the MCU in the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts, and that scene was actually pulled straight from Doomsday. So I'm guessing that once that ship enters the atmosphere, it just comes straight to Avengers Tower. Now, this description is saying that the teams get acquainted, and Thor meets Steve and summons Mjolnir so that Thor knows it's actually him, it's Steve Rogers. And this part was actually shown at CinemaCon. I wasn't at CinemaCon this year because my wife had to have a baby. But from what we've heard, descriptions of what they showed, that scene was actually showed in the trailer. But it is said to take place on the Fantastic Four ship. Now, I think that detail is key because I have always wondered, why the hell is Thor on the Fantastic Four ship when they come into the MCU? Because we've heard, Thor and Steve Rogers are on the ship. I get why Steve is on it because he was in the Fantastic Four universe, but why would Thor be on it? He's in Universe 616, and the rocket just came into Universe 616. I think perhaps that leak that Thor and Steve were on the ship together, and the confirmation that we do see them on the ship together in the trailer, I don't think that is when the ship is traveling through space and Thor and Steve are both on the ship, and like maybe they picked up Thor after they've already had Steve. I think that Thor entering the ship and then meeting Steve again, him walking out and saying, "Hey, buddy," and all that, I think that is when they arrive at Avengers Tower. So I think Thor has already gone to Avengers Tower and like called a meeting of the Avengers, likely deeming himself the leader of the Avengers, which will be funny because like Yelena and Bucky are arguing with Sam over who gets to, be the Avengers. You could just have Thor come in and be like, "Obviously, I'm the leader of the Avengers." So that'd be fun. Anyway, I think he's already there. The new Avengers are there. Sam's team comes. And when the Fantastic Four arrive, and Steve Rogers as well, I think Thor will board the ship. Like they'll go down to the landing pad, the door will open, Thor will walk on. And that is when he will come in contact with Steve. And that is, just how I think that whole scene is going to pan out. Makes a lot more sense. So anyway, Steve, he then meets Yelena and tells her how Nat was family to him, so she is too. It's very sweet. Steve and Natasha were, of course, very close. And then we get a shot of Yelena fighting herself, but it's Mystique. This is, of course, taking place over in the Fox X-Men universe, and I believe that scene was also shown in the CinemaCon trailer, so it looks like a lot of what they showed in the CinemaCon trailer will, in fact, be included in this Comic-Con public release trailer, of course, if this is real. So it may not be super different after all. Anyway, Yelena and Mystique, they're fighting. It looks awesome, I'm sure. They're both very skilled fighters, so seeing Mystique like flex her powers of, not just the fighting Yelena, going toe-to-toe with Yelena fighting, but also flexing her morphing powers by morphing into Yelena to kind of throw her off. I think that's going to be really cool. We then get a shot of the Baxter building. That's the Fantastic Four building. And apparently the X-Men are there. Okay, so after the Avengers meet up with the Fantastic Four in Avengers Tower, we can assume they then go to the Fox X-Men universe. And remember, Doom is supposedly with them as well. He's on the ship when they get to the Avengers universe. So he goes with them like to Avengers Tower, and then they go to the X-Men universe. Anyway, so they go to the X-Men universe, they fight because the X-Men think that they're there to destroy them. They eventually realize, oh no, they're just here to help. But then at some point along the way, we know that Doom will betray them all, and that scene is featured in the trailer as well toward the end, so we'll get to that in a second. But at some point in the movie, it sounds like Doom will go back to Universe 828, and I think he takes Steve with him as a prisoner, and it sounds like the remaining Avengers and X-Men, they will follow him to Universe 828 and perhaps meet up at the Fantastic Four's headquarters, which is the Baxter building in Universe 828, and they'll have a meeting on, what to do next. Now, remember, this is a trailer, so they do cut these things kind of out of order and show different scenes from the film, not necessarily in the order in which they are in the movie, so keep that in mind. Next, we see Reed and Doom talking. Reed is yelling at Doom, saying, "Answer me." We then see a shot of Loki in a TVA uniform at Steve's house from the past that we saw in Endgame and in his Doomsday character teaser. So again, that is when Loki likely comes and moves Steve and his family to Universe 828. And, by having that scene in the trailer cut alongside Reed yelling at Doom to tell me, I think this could be when Doom goes to the Baxter building at the beginning of the film for Reed's help, which is what I think we're seeing here in Fantastic Four First Steps in their post-credit scene, which is also a scene from Doomsday. I think that we will learn that Reed and Doom, they aren't enemies yet. They're friends, like old colleagues. Maybe they had a fun rivalry in college, whatever. But now here Doom is telling Reed about the incursions, and Reed's freaking out and wanting Doom to tell him the truth. Well, what's happening? What's the severity of this situation? Or, maybe this is even later in the film when Reed realizes that Doom has betrayed them all. I don't know. We'll just have to see. All right. And then the quote main scene of the trailer is the fight that was featured in the CinemaCon trailer as well. A fight between Thor and Doom where Thor throws Stormbreaker at Doom and he stops it with his fingers. The trailer then ends with a shot of Doom controlling Sentinels. This is in the leaked footage that we covered here on the channel as well. And Doom says, "One day you will forgive me." This is likely, I think, the very line that he will say when he's standing there with his arms out, controlling the Sentinels, looking down to Steve. I think that's when we're going to hear him say, "One day you will forgive me." It's when he is betraying them all and enacts his true plan to let the multiverse die so he can rebuild it himself. I like that line of "one day you will forgive me" because it shows that Doom, he's not this mwahaha evil villain. He's very sure of himself, but he thinks he is doing the right thing. And all right, that's the end of this description. I like it. It sounds pretty dope to me. We'll see if it's legit come Saturday the 25th. I will be covering the trailer right here on the channel, so be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss that. All right, now I do briefly want to talk about this interview with the Russos. I'm going to play it here for you, and then we'll talk about it.
He plays Dr. Doom. There's a moment in this film where we understand why he looks like Tony Stark, because he's not Tony Stark.
I'm not going to give away anything. You can see me struggling. It's like a bead of sweat just dripping. Explain this to you without giving anything away. It all makes sense when you watch the movies.
Now, the guy asking the question basically states that it's revealed in the movie why Tony and Doom look alike. But I'm thinking maybe that's just him, like, assuming, because Joe Russo goes on to say that, quote, "It will all make sense when you watch the movies," plural. So that falls in line with previous reports that Doom's likeness to Tony Stark is not addressed in Doomsday, but say for Secret Wars. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. Now, I've said for a long time that I think there's a multiversal connection between Tony Stark and Doom. This is the multiverse saga. Some goobers online try to say, nah, man, they just look alike by coincidence, like Steve Rogers and Johnny Storm. Okay, Bubba, sure, then whatever you think. Look, there is a reason that they look alike. It's not going to be a coinky-dink. It will be either Doom and Tony are variants, and I think probably Tony was always a Von Doom who was adopted. Or it could be something like when Doom cures his face of his scars in Secret Wars and Battleworld, maybe he gives himself the face of Tony Stark in this new fictitious universe that he has created, just like in the comics. There's something there. Otherwise, I don't think the Russos would be being so coy about it. I also think it's worth noting that, again, he did say that will be revealed, or you'll see how that'll be explained, whatever he said. You'll see that in the movies, plural, meaning, again, likely won't be touched on in Doomsday because we probably won't actually see Downey's face until the very end of the film when he unmasks, just like he did at Comic-Con, and then the likeness will be touched on in Secret Wars. Now, one more thing that I want to talk about before we go. It is being reported by The Hollywood Reporter, so a very reliable source here, that the current cut of Doomsday is 2 hours and 46 minutes long. That is music to my fucking ears, guys. I am so tired of movies here lately feeling like they have to be cut like TikToks and be as short and condensed as possible. Let the damn thing breathe. Fantastic Four First Steps, that movie gave me whiplash. We're even seeing it over at DC with movies like Superman, which I really liked, and then most recently with Supergirl. I think both of those movies just needed more time. And a film like Avengers Doomsday, I think it needs at least 2.5 hours. I mean, every Avengers movie has been about 2.5 hours. Endgame was 3 hours. And look, longer does not mean better. Not in this situation anyway. A good movie is as long or as short as it needs to be. I am simply saying that movies do not need to feel the need to move at this breakneck pace or cut crucial scenes or, avoid proper pacing just to, rush the thing and make sure that it's over before we hit the 2-hour mark. I'm so tired of them feeling like they have to keep it under a certain runtime. Now, does that mean that we need 4-hour Justice League movies? No, let's be practical. If you're making a movie, especially a theatrical movie, I'd say 3 hours is the top. Anyway, I think that sounds great. 2 hours and 45 minutes sounds like a solid runtime. I hope those comments that, we were all hearing from Campia about the film not turning out as great as they had hoped in the edit, and he said that he's now heard from another source that that's not what that source is hearing. So I hope that wasn't accurate. I hope it turns out good. You know what I'm hearing is just absolutely phenomenal? Spider-Man Brand New Day. Everything I'm hearing about Brand New Day, which comes out at the end of the month, I'm hearing that it is very, very good. In fact, prediction markets like Kalshi are forecasting Brand New Day to have a Rotten Tomatoes score above 90%. Previous MCU Spider-Man movies, Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home, those all came in above 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. And with Brand New Day looking like it could be the best MCU Spider-Man film yet, I think the likelihood of Brand New Day clearing the 90% mark is pretty high. I mean, that's where I'd put my money. And on Kalshi, the sponsor of this video, I can. Say I put $100 toward Brand New Day coming in above 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. If I am right, I can turn that $100 into $139. And I'll tell you what I'd use that money for: going to see Spider-Man Brand New Day again. Now, remember, this is supposed to be fun. We're talking about Spider-Man, for God's sake. So if you decide to make any trades, only use money that you have allocated in your budget for fun. And if you do decide to make a trade on Kalshi's Spider-Man market, use my code Colton or go through the link in the description below to receive $10 when you trade $10. That's code Colton, C-O-L-T-O-N, or click the link in the description below for $10 when you trade $10. And remember, please trade responsibly. So guys, let me know, do you think this trailer description is legit? If so, do you like it? What do you think about Joe Russo's comments regarding Tony and Doom? And are you excited about this 2-hour and 45-minute runtime that we currently have that is being reported for Doomsday? This far out, it's perfectly normal to still have maybe even like a 3-hour cut as you try to trim it down, trim the fat, but you don't want to trim it too much. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on that. I think 2 hours, 45 minutes sounds good. All right. I love you guys. I will see you soon. I've been Colton Ogburn. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Bye.